here is the PDF containing your CSS assignment. Okay, for this activity we're going to use Notepad, and let me make this a little larger so it's easier to read. Here's a very important note. Do not copy and paste this code from a Word version or a PDF version into Notepad. Your XHTML document will not work properly if you do. Alright, so our first exercise is to create an external style sheet. So, before we do that, let's review keeping everything in one folder. If you remember from the previous lessons, I created a folder where I'm keeping my songs that I embedded and my picture that I embedded into my website called Moodheart, my web page called Moodheart. Now I've created a new web page called External, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Alright, so our first step is we're going to open a text editor, which is Notepad, and we're going to type this in to the text editor. So let me open Notepad. Here's a new Notepad. I'm going to move it over here so I can see what I need to type. I'm going to type H1 with my brace, and I'm going to hit return, tab over, color, colon, pound sign, FFCOCB, make sure I got everything right, FFCOCB. Remember, use a semicolon between your styles. We're going to do font, family, colon, Arial, semicolon, and then our last one is, notice they misspelled background, so don't forget to put the G in, otherwise it will not work. Spelling does matter when you're working with any type of code, whether it be XHTML, HTML, or CSS. So spelling does matter. And for this one we're going to do pound, FF followed by 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to return, and we're going to end the braces or the bracket. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is save it as mystyle.css. So go File, Save As, make sure I'm in the right folder, which I am. I'm going to save as my, then capital STYLE .css. What you name your file does matter, as you'll see a little bit later in this lesson. So I saved it as my style with a capital S .css. Click Save. So if we look in our folder, we now have a CSS file. Notice a little different. It has a little A. So, and over here it says it's a CSS document. It's not an image, and it's not an HTML document. Alright, we're going to minimize this. Okay, so the next step in our process in our assignment is to create another text document and enter the following code. So I already made this document, and it's right here, and I just put in the necessary code. And actually what I did is I copied and pasted the code from my tags and attributes file and just deleted all of the content. So we have the document type right here, we have the start of the HTML, we have the start of our head tag. I'm going to add a title. I'm just going to call it external. Okay, so I have a title for this, and then the code that you add within the head tag is this code right here. So you have link, and it's the same code from this PDF, link rel equals style sheet in quotes, type equals text /css in quotes, href equals mystyle.css. So if we look at this, we have, that's the style sheet, sorry. If we look at my external, we have the same code to make sure you spell everything correctly. And remember, do not copy and paste. You need to hand type this in so you make sure everything works correctly. So here is the code you enter for an external style sheet. Notice I capitalized the S to match the file name. Alright. So now I close my head tag, I start my body tag, and within the body tag I'm going to use my H1 because that's the one I defined. So H1, and make sure I use the right, and you can just type any text you want. And then be sure that you close your H1 tag. Okay? So let me go back, bring this over, and so I need to add my period and close my H1 tag. And notice my body tag is closed, and I close my HTML tag. So I'm going to File, Save. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to open my new external style sheet web page, and here it is. Voila! So this is an example of a web page accessing my external style sheet. Okay? If we look at this, let's bring up my style sheet. Let me make this a little larger. Okay, so we define H1, we have the color, the font family, and the background color. And if you look at the PDF that we have, it shows, see, look, it doesn't look exactly the same. So let's go back and look at our style sheet according to see if we made any mistakes. And I see a mistake that we made. Alright, notice it's a very small mistake. This should be a 0. Okay, so remember, we learn from our mistakes. So File, I made the change, File, Save. Okay, and let's see what happens to our web page. I hit refresh. Notice that one change. I changed this from the letter O to the number 0. Okay, so any changes I make in my CSS style sheet changes my web page. So let's say I wanted a blue background. Okay, let's see if this works. It didn't work, so let's just get rid of the pound sign. Okay, so another thing we learned, when you're just using the name of the colors as opposed to the value, you don't need the pound sign. So I changed my background color to blue, and we can change this to white. And notice I'm not going back to the code. Here's the code for this web page. I'm changing everything through the CSS style sheet, my external style sheet. So File, refresh, or Save, and go over here and refresh the page, and now you have a page with white text and a blue background. You could change the font size if you wanted to. You can change the font if you want to. Okay, but here's an example of a web page that is linked to an external style sheet.